Styzor. You have a lot of gall trying to say this is about the perception. Yeah, the color is in the brain. We know that. But when we ask, like, what sound did a dinosaur make? We're not asking, wait a second. Was there some other creature there to hear it? You know, when we say, what color was a dinosaur? We're not saying, wait, did any animals have color vision? We're saying, if we were there, what would we see? It's just shorthand. Physicists sort this out by just talking about material definitions. You, who bitch about philosophy to a ridiculous degree all the time, are trying to rely, whether you know it or not, on this whole idea of when a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? But see, physicists define sound as the pressure waves associated with our perception of sound. You know, the perception is just how we hear the sound. But we still call it a sound, and that's why we say that a tape recorder records sound. I mean, that's how the language works. If you want to make some philosophical cone, then first of all, stop bitching about philosophy so much. But also, just sort it the fuck out. Don't make it like it's a scientific statement. Scientists solidify these definitions by looking in the material world for definitions independent of our particular moment in evolution and how our particular moment of evolution has us perceiving things. And you're totally wrong. I gave you a link in your comments. Who knows if you'll see it? There's a lot. I mean, but if you read all your comments, you'll see it. But you said light is this visible part of the electromagnetic spectrum. Well, that's not how physicists use it, right? I posted in there from the Space Telescope Institute. Maybe you'll go, oh, that's bullshit. I don't like those people that run the Hubble. But it's full of scientists. And though often you don't hear X-rays talked about as light, you can. Just type in X-ray light in Google, site:.edu. So then you only get .edu sites. That'll help. And you'll see people talking about light from the whole spectrum. And it only makes sense because otherwise, if you use the cognitive definition of light as optical light and sound as sound a human has heard, then you get just ridiculously complicated statements that have to be made about what the color of something is and blah, blah, blah. Why? Well, because in the case of light, you know what redshift is, right? So there's light that's emitted in optical wavelengths and would be optical if you're moving at the same speed of that object, but since it's so far away, or if it's just moving away from you really fast for some other reason, the light gets shifted redward into the infrared or microwaves or even radio, whatever. And it's complicated to say, you know, what is the wavelength of this light? Well, it depends on who saw it and how fast were they going. Okay, so we use the material definitions of things. Okay, so light is a particle. It's not light once it hits your eye. It's true, of course, that the quality of red, really the emotion of red, is attributed to the phenomena. But it's just as true that in English, when we say something is red, it's because it reflects red light or it emits red light. And we say that it's red, and that's a shorthand instead of saying, well, the light of that object, if it is perceived by an eye, is translated into the red quality that the cognitive that the cognitive system that is your brain will perceive if it sees it. You know, it's a lot easier to say that, yeah, the object is red, but we know what it means. And if it becomes important to make a distinction, we can still make that distinction. Okay. So the point with the center of the sun is just that there's shitloads of visible light in there. Now, frankly, even if it was non-visible light, but there was a lot of it, I would still call that bright. Bright in the X-ray, bright in the whatever part of the spectrum. The reason I responded to you, because I really don't want to keep schooling you in physics. It's sad when somebody's beaten and doesn't know it. The Black Knight, reference is meant to be practically literal here. You really don't know how wrong you were shown to be, and that's fine. But for those that do know, I start to look cruel, or just indulging myself in correcting somebody that can't be corrected, as if I just enjoy it. It makes me look cruel. But the reason I responded anyway is because for you to rely on this, does a tree make a sound if it falls in the forest with no one to hear, kind of philosophical statement about the philosophy of perception. What does it really mean? It's just bullshit. Because physicists have that sorted out. If a neurologist is talking about it and really only cares about the phenomena in the brain, they still don't say, does it make a sound? They just say, well, did someone perceive it or not? But physicists that are defining physical phenomena, they just define it in terms of what materially is happening, regardless of the perception. Now, I know that to make those theories, we have to have perception. It all depends on perception, then, in some sense. But when we say, what color was the dinosaur, it doesn't matter if there were any creatures yet that evolved the color red if we're saying, well, it was red. It might be of interest to say, well, it was actually just evolved to be a certain shade of gray because everything was seeing in black and white, or it was this or that or the other, in a particular question. But just a physical question, saying it was red means it reflected photons from the red part of the visible spectrum. Okay. So sort that shit out, man. And then return to being cocky.